tired of Google thinking they can just do whatever they want. First, it was the data harvesting, then it was the ad targeting, and now they're taking away Android's app freedom. If there is one thing I liked about Android, it was that I could install any app I want. But all that's about to become obliterated by Google this year. They're killing sideloading. It's Android's best feature. What about my emulators, my ad-free apps, my APKs? So I went looking for an alternative, one that lets me do what I want and respects my privacy. Now there's a lot of options out there, but only one that I kept hearing about over and over again, and that's GrapheneOS. Now when I first heard about Graphene, I didn't really get what all the hype was about. Supposedly, it's an OS for maximum privacy and security. Even that ex-CIA guy uses it, except I'm not some spy or some whistleblower. I wasn't going to uproot my entire phone's ecosystem just for that. But the more I looked into it, the more I was shocked at how many features this thing has over stock Android. Just look at this huge list. There's network toggles, sensor toggles, private screenshots, so much more. And yes, of course, sideloading apps. Graphene sounds like it's going to give me the kind of control that I'm looking for. So I'm finally going to take the plunge and give it a shot. But will it be any good? And will it be easy to use? Or will I just be fumbling around and tinkering with everything just to get things to work? So the team and I got to testing. Fortunately, GrapheneOS has a whole page of step-by-step instructions. But there's this list of things I need to check off first. One of them is having a phone that will actually work with Graphene. Now, it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that Android completely dominates the global smartphone market by a whopping 70%. So surely, Graphene has to work on tons of phones. But ironically, GrapheneOS only supports Google Pixel, an OS we're using to get away from Google but only works on Google phones? Sort of funny how that works. Now, Graphene has some pretty good reasons for this restriction though, since Pixels are the only phones that have the features they require, for now. Fortunately for us, we're using the Pixel 9a. But if you don't have or want a Pixel, don't leave yet, because Motorola just announced they're partnering with Graphene, so this Pixel exclusive era won't be for long. And if even Motorola is giving Graphene the thumbs up, then there's gotta be something good here. Whatever that is, we're gonna find out. So I carried on with the instructions, and after some careful reading, some button pressing, and waiting, Graphene was successfully installed on my Pixel in just 20 minutes, all without a hitch. I used their web app. It was way easier than I was expecting. Now it does ask you to set some stuff first, like Wi-Fi and making a PIN, sort of like you would if you bought a completely new phone. But then you get into the home screen, and it's all monochrome. The wallpaper is black. The apps are black and white. Even Chrome is black and white. But wait a minute, it's not Chrome. It's something called Vanadium, which is apparently Graphene's custom browser. But anyways, the first thing I noticed was how few apps come pre-installed on this OS. There's only 14 by default. Now that's a huge difference compared to the circus this phone looked like out of the box using Google's own OS, Android. But as nice as all the minimalism is, I like having apps on my phone. So I opened up their app store only to see 12 apps. Now this can hardly be called an app store, it's more like an app basket. But among these 12 was the Google Play Store. Now you'd think I'd just install the Play Store right away. I mean, that is where you get the apps on Android. But I'm trying to get away from Google. I wasn't too keen on doing that so quickly. It's no secret that the Play Store and Play services are just another part of Google's data gobbling machine. But I'm using Graphene now, so there's gotta be another way. I poked around the rest of the app basket and I found this Crescent thing. It's supposed to be a private and secure store alternative. And it sounds promising, but I opened it up only to be sorely disappointed. Crescent had one page of apps. One. We've barely upgraded from a basket to a closet. And I haven't even heard of some of these apps, like GrapheneOS. That's not a real word. At this point, I probably should have just gotten the hint and installed the Play Store, but I was determined not to give in to the convenience of Google so easily. There has to be some way to get a basic app, like a classic weather app or a calendar app, without it. Some way that I'm sure my fellow Graphene users users have already figured out. So I went online, and sure enough, I discovered a few alternatives such as F-Droid, Aurora, and APK Peer. A lot of people recommend F-Droid, which is supposed to have a lot of open source apps, but it doesn't have much besides that. So that's why I went for Aurora, since it apparently is just like the Google Play Store, but it lets you use it anonymously instead of having to sign in. And if there's one thing I love, it's having to not use an account. While I was using GrapheneOS, I kept thinking about control. A lot of ergonomic chairs are supposed to help you, and then you sit in them for an hour and you realize, the lumbar support is stuck in one spot. So you end up adjusting yourself to the chair instead of the chair adjusting to you. So Sihoo reached out to sponsor this video, and I've been using their Doro C300 Pro V2 for a bit now. It's the first full-body adaptive ergonomic chair. When you first sit in it, you don't have to mess with a bunch of levers trying to get it right. It almost immediately adapts to your body. The Dynacore system keeps the backrest, lumbar, armrest all moving together with you, and the Synchro Flex system is what makes it feel like it fits right away, because it's basically tracking your posture and adjusting in real time instead of you having to dial everything in yourself. The lumbar support also lets you adjust how aggressive it is, but more importantly, it actually moves with your back instead of just sitting in one spot and hoping you line up with it. So it doesn't feel like it's poking you while still offering the support you want. And the seat is nice and wide. The armrests are also 8-dimensional, so they move around depending on what you're doing, and they even follow you when you recline. And what I like is that everything locks into place naturally. Plus, the mesh seat is super breathable, so things don't get stuffy, if you know what I mean. So if you're someone who sits at your desk for 7 to 8 hours a day, and you don't want to constantly adjust your chair, the Sihoo Doro C300 Pro V2 is definitely worth checking out. It's not about you adapting to the chair adapts to you. So I went to the Aurora page, installed the APK, and sure enough, it gave me two options. Sign in like a normal person, or use it anonymously. And boom, finally, all the apps were there. Not just 20 that I've never heard of. But how well does Aurora actually work when it comes to installing stuff, especially since I'm anonymous? First up, I found a classic weather app, the Weather Channel, of course, and I hit install. The circle started loading, and when it finished, it just said install. Again, what happened? Okay, maybe it just bugged out. I kept hitting install and watched the circle load and load until it finally said open. Now we're in business. But then a pop-up appeared that said can't install app. At this point, I was ready to give up. I've gone through 3 stores, I'd gotten nowhere. Maybe I just had to install the Play Store, but at least no one can say I didn't try. After dismissing the pop-up, the button still said open. So I pressed it and it opened the app. What do you know? Getting some serious whiplash here, Aurora Store. It's definitely a bit buggy. That might even be an understatement. But it installed the app, and the app works, and it did it without making an account. That's a win in my book. So with that out of the way, it was time to get my phone to an actually usable state by having all the typical apps I have on my phone. I headed straight up to setting up YouTube. But things got dicey quickly. It installed fine. Every time I tried opening it, it kept booting me right back to the store page. I spammed the open button, just enough to barely read this device not compatible warning. So YouTube here is mad about something. Maybe because I'm using Graphene, or maybe I'm using the Aurora Store, or maybe even both. But eventually, I figured out the big obvious problem. I scrolled down the store page and found this line. Requires Google Play services. Now I guess that makes some sort of sense. YouTube is a Google app, so naturally, it wants its services back. But I had gone through all this trouble to avoid Google. And now here I was, heading back to the Graphene App Store to give in and install it. And when I did, I read this note that changed everything. This isn't just the run-of-the-mill Play services that other Android users get. This is a whole different ballgame. It uses what's called a sandboxed version of Play services. That means it doesn't have any sort of special access or privileges on your phone like it does with normal Android. With Graphene, I can change all the different settings like location sharing, diagnostics. I can even delete my advertising ID. I bet Android would faint at that idea. Take that, Google, I'm the captain now. So now with Play services installed, YouTube was finally playing nice. Now that's one app down, 500 more to go. So as bumpy of a ride as YouTube was, most of the rest of the apps actually went off without a hitch. That is until I encountered my next big problem, banking apps. I installed Capital One, but when I tried to open it, it kept closing again, over and over. And that's with Play services, so that can't be the problem. So this time, it's definitely got something to do with us us using specifically Graphene. We all know how banking apps are. They're supposed to be super secure. In fact, I would be very concerned if they weren't. If they think just one little thing is suspicious, they'll stop you right in your tracks and then stop your credit card. But I wasn't gonna give up. Surely someone out there would have a solution. Even Graphene users have to use bank apps. So I did some searching and found a very simple answer. This time, I just had to turn on an exploit protection compatibility thing, and boom, Capital One let me right in. But hold up, this setting sounds pretty serious. If I had this turned on, wouldn't this mean my banking app is more exposed to being exploited? I tried doing a little bit more research on this and like what even it is, but there was no concrete answer on forums or even Graphene's own documents. I'm sure it might be fine if Graphene is supposed to be super secure by default. With almost all my apps ready to go, I was just about up and running. The last thing I needed was to set up some sort of emergency phone tracking, or at the very least erase the data so that the thief can't get in and just impersonate me. But this final hurdle would prove less technically complicated and more an exercise in questioning my values. I installed Android's version of Find My on iPhone called Find Hub. I logged in. I couldn't track my phone location even after giving it access in the settings. 0% functional. But now I'm starting to wonder if there's any self-hosted tracking options out there. But I'm not about to go on one of those huge rabbit hole adventures right now. So once again, with the power of determination, I looked online for some answers. And I stumbled upon this super long Reddit post. Post all about Graphene. And in this incredible essay of a post, I managed to pick out this section on how to get Find Hub to work. First, I had to give it device admin rights. This is so it can reset your phone if you lose it. Then I needed to let it have direct access to my location through Play services instead of Graphene's own GPS. And it needs that access all the time. So at this point, I really had to ask myself, do I value my $500 phone more or my privacy from Google more? Like I said, I'm not a spy or a whistleblower, I'm just a normal person. So I can probably make that handshake with Google as long as they help me find my phone should the unthinkable happen. So once I made all the changes, Find Hub was able to ping my phone's location and it was solved. So after all that troubleshooting and settings hunting, my new and improved Graphene phone was ready to daily drive. All my apps were good to go, my settings were dialed in, and I was using it like I would any other phone, but with more power, more control, more freedom. And then the more I used it, the more I started to wonder, what else can Graphene do? I mean, it already looks and feels a lot better than Android. But the hype around Graphene can't just be about settings and better permissions. There must be a way that I can push this bad boy to the max and make Android look like a coughing baby. I don't know what that means. So I did some more searching on the forums to see what people really truly liked about Graphene over Android. Sure, there's a pin scrambling and a duress password that blows up all your data if you enter it. Really neat stuff if the police are onto you and you're a criminal. But again, I'm not. But there has to be more than that. Something that anyone could benefit from. And that's when I found out about profiles. Apparently, these are kind of like users on Windows or a Mac. An app installed on one user can't be used by a different user. They're completely separated. This sounded like the perfect way to quarantine those apps that need Google Play services. Or if I wanted to stop using social media, I could put those apps away and stop myself from switching every time I had a tiny urge to scroll the internet. This cool little feature has been hiding right under my nose the whole time, hidden away in the system settings as an inconspicuous users option. Come on, Graphene. This is the edge you have over Android. You should be marketing the heck out of this. Put it on your first page. So I made a profile, started chucking all my Google apps in it. Now I don't have to worry about Google snooping around the rest of my stuff. There's an option to let the profile run in the background, but that would hog up resources, so that stayed off. Unfortunately, as nice as this feature is in theory, when it came to actually using it, it got a bit annoying. Anytime I wanted to use an app on that other profile, I had to go all the way to device settings, find the user section, and switch. That's a lot of steps. Until eventually, I needed to record something on my screen. I pulled down the status bar all the way to the bottom, and when I did, I saw this button, a users button at the bottom. All you have to do is press on it and it opens a menu to all your different profiles, like evil social media. Now that is a much better way to switch than rummaging through my settings. But why is it hidden? Give me a tutorial. Give me some tips, Graphene. Come on. Now it's cool. So the more I used GrapheneOS along the week, the more it just became my phone. Sure, I had to run some troubleshooting at the start, but a lot of that was just me trying trying to shake my fist at Google. If I installed the Play Store and Play services from the start, like I imagine most people would, I would barely have to touch anything, except for that one exploit setting for the banking thing and getting FindHub to work, but that was my prerogative. All this to say, Graphene is what Android should be. It should give me all the settings, all the permissions, all the power to choose what I want and don't want on my phone. Like if I want unverified apps or if I don't want the Google Play Store, I want the option to have it. And even though I had to use Google for things that I needed, I could at least sequester them away with profiles. But after using Graphene for myself, I'm convinced this isn't just some alternative to Android. In a lot of ways, it's a legit upgrade. Yeah, there was some tinkering involved at the start, but it's nowhere near stuff like Linux. There's still one big problem with Graphene though, and that's the fact that it's only on Pixel phones. When's that Motorola phone coming out? I need one of those. And if you're interested in more open source apps that you can install on your phone that are ecosystem agnostic, check out this video right here.